Hey everybody, Pastor Greg here. I'm excited about life, and I know that you are too, because life is good and it keeps getting better all the time. On behalf of myself and Pastor Yolanda and the Celebration Spiritual Center family, we just want to say thank you to everyone who donated to CSC during Giving Tuesday on this past Tuesday. We appreciate you, and we know that the law is working in your life. As you give, you must receive, and so we're so excited to see and know that your life will begin to open up as you chose to give. There are a bunch of things happening this month, and I want to make sure that you know about it. First and foremost, on December 18th, we will be having our second annual Home for the Holidays potluck. And so we want to see you here. If you're in the tri-state area, come to CSC on that Sunday. Be here, celebrate with us, celebrate the truth of the God in you, your magnificence and your significance, and then join us afterwards for an amazingly awesome potluck. Service starts at 11 a.m., doors open at 10:30. We also want you to celebrate with us on New Year's Eve. Our annual New Year's Eve service will take place on Saturday, December 31st at 7 p.m. And we are going to have an awesome time. It's a great way to start your evening, remembering what is true, giving gratitude and thanksgiving for an amazing year, and being clear about what 2017 will be. It is December, which means that we have a new message series. Let's get into it. Many times when we're in the valley experience of our life, we feel like there's no way that God is hearing us or with us. But when you look back now, you can see that there was a purpose that you couldn't see then. You look back and you realize that there was something holding you, something guiding you, something loving you, something protecting you, something shielding you. That's the source within you, behind it all. Well, good morning, Celebration Spiritual Center. Good morning. How are we? How are we feeling? How are we being? Beautiful, beautiful. It's so good to be here with you in December, the final month of our year, and a very symbolic month. I love the symbolism of this month with the winter solstice and the holidays. It's rich. And so this month we're using a timeless classic, A Christmas Carol. Is everyone familiar with the story of A Christmas Carol? We've all seen some version of it. Yes? All right, beautiful. So I encourage you, take this time this month, watch one of the many different movies that are out there, or even go back and actually read what Charles Dickens wrote. I love the way he writes and the words that he puts in the mouths of each character. I want to take us to, in the first chapter, and we'll just sort of set the scene, right? That the first chapter, Marley's Ghost, it opens with talking about Scrooge. And we see Scrooge in the counting house. And we see right away that he's mean, he's ornery, and he's fussing all the time, right? And he could care less about joy, and he could care less about Christmas. He could care less about giving to people. And, to Merry Christmas, his nephew comes in and says, oh, Merry Christmas, Uncle Scrooge. And he says, bah, humbug, like immediately. That's just his response to all that goodness, right? And we fast forward through the story, and something happens when he gets home. It's dark, it's night, it's winter, it gets dark early. And the doorknob to his door, he sees the face of his now dead partner, Jacob Marley. He's been dead for 7 years. And it kind of freaks him out, it scares him. He runs in the house and closes the door and kind of looks back to see if he's going to see anything else behind the door, but he doesn't see anything else. And he just says, bah, humbug. That was just a figment of my imagination, nothing real, no need to be scared. He lives in a pretty big home, and he eventually retires to his bedroom, goes to sleep. He has a bunch of different locks on his door. He locks them all. And then something happens. He's visited by the ghost of his now dead business partner, Jacob Marley. And needless to say, he's freaked out. He's scared. And I want to bring our attention today to the conversation that happens between the two of them, because this is what's going to take us into the message for today. Jacob Marley, he's wearing a set of chains and locks. And that was actually part of what echoed him coming into the space in the room that scared Ebenezer Scrooge, because he's hearing these chains dragging. And Jacob Marley says this. He says, I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link and yard by yard. I girded it of my own free will, and on my own free will, I wore it. And what he's saying is that the way he chose to live his life, He lived his life just as Ebenezer Scrooge lived his life. In the non-physical, he was creating locks and chains that he would then be forced to wear as he moved on. And through their conversation, Ebenezer Scrooge replies to him and he says, "But you were always a good man of business, Jacob." And Jacob Marley replies this. He says, "Business," wringing his hands, "mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. At this time of the rolling year," he says, "I suffer the most. Why did I walk through the crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down and never raise them to that blessed star which led the wise men to a poor abode? Were there no poor homes to which its light would have conducted me? Mankind was my business." I want to say that again. He says, "The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business." And so I have a question for each of us today. What business are you in? And the answer is service. Now, why do I say that? We're going to talk about what service is and what service is not. But why are we in the business of service? Well, really everyone, every human being, even every corporation is really in the business of service. Many corporations have forgotten that because in developing a lack and limitation conversation, they then turn into the business of greed. But initially, every business is in the business of service. We think about our services, whether it's electricity. We think about our services, whether it's water. If we think about our services, whether it's internet. If we think about our services, even cable, it's entertainment. It's serving entertainment to us. We can think about a real estate investor or a real estate mogul. Well, they're buying or creating property as a service so that we have somewhere to live. Unless you're the person that's building the buildings, if that's not your service, if that's not your gift, skill, talent, or ability, you're not building the building. So someone has to offer the service of construction. Someone has to offer the service of bringing all the pieces together so that we can have a building to be in. Yes, yes? And so in truth, no matter what it is that you're doing, sometimes we get caught up in thinking that there are only certain service industries and other people are not serving. But the only business that any of us are in is service. And this is what Jacob Marley was really saying to Scrooge. Mankind is my business. Service is my business. I'm here to be of service, as Reverend Michael says so often, to be a beneficial presence on this planet. That's service. So if our business is service, then we got to understand what service is. Because where we get caught up and where we forget and become like Ebenezer Scrooge and stop serving is because we were sacrificing. We thought we were serving. We believed in the goodness of our heart and in the wonderful intentions of our heart that we are here. I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. And what do? You give away all that actually belonged to you. You serve from a place of lack, from your empty cup. You haven't filled it up. And so you giving out your last little drops to everyone else. That's sacrifice. Sacrifice is a 4-letter word. You can go back to the Who You Are Is Who We Need series. It was September of a couple years ago. I brought that message. Sacrifice is a 4-letter word. We don't teach sacrifice here. We teach service. That's the last pillar of our mission. Serve all creation. Because we recognize that that's the business that we're in. We're in the business of service, not sacrifice. We're in the business of service, not helping. Interesting. Help seems like a nice word. But when we say things like, we're going to help the poor and help the disadvantaged and help the broken, well, we're affirming their limitation. We're affirming that they're not worthy. We're affirming that something is wrong with them. They don't need help. They may need to be served. Yes. That's a difference. Do you hear that? If we're in the business of service, we're no longer helping people. This is a beautiful time of giving, and it's wonderful, and all of us will give in different ways. But give from this consciousness of service. There's no one that needs your help. They're perfect, whole, and complete. Yes. But the God in you is serving the God in them. I was reminded and thinking about it this morning, and when we look at the example of Jesus, a beautiful example, we know who Jesus is. We know what Jesus could do and was doing. Jesus was amazing, right? Cool. What did Jesus do? He washed the disciples' feet. He served his disciples. But he was Jesus. Like, he was the man, right? Some people believed he was God in form, right? But he recognized the powerful principle that I'm not here to help anybody. I'm not here to sacrifice. I'm here to serve. And I recognize that out of my service, I'm exalted. I recognize that out of my service, that's when I actually experience and can attract to me everything that I want in my life, because I'm willing to serve. Now, for some of us, we may be thinking, okay, Pastor Greg, this is good. I like where you're going. Service versus sacrifice. Thank you, because I realize I've been sacrificing a lot in my life. I don't have to do that anymore. Thank you, Pastor Greg. Sacrifice, or service rather, versus helping. This is awesome. I can see my brothers and sisters, if I'm serving my homeless brothers and sisters, I can now see them as a perfect, whole, and complete being. Then I no longer have to see them as someone that's needing my help, someone that's below me or underneath me, but they're my equal. Yes. And as I serve them, I am literally serving myself, because it is the God in me that's serving the God in them. Powerful. Thank you, Pastor Greg. But I don't have a lot. I get it. There are a lot of people that serve in a number of ways, and that's beautiful. You know, people that have money, they can serve, Pastor Greg. You know, there are people that have certain gifts, skills, talents, and abilities that it makes sense that they can serve in the way that they're serving. But I'm not really that special, Pastor Greg. I don't really have a lot. And I have news for you. You're wealthy. We think that it's the wealthy that serve. We think it's the wealthy that gives, right? Oh, if I could give a $1 million gift to an organization that I love, then I really feel like I'm serving. But my $5 won't do much. Well, if I could build a building to house all of the homeless kids in the city, then I would feel like I'm really serving, Pastor Greg. But I don't know the first thing about that. I can't do that. So I'm not wealthy. I don't have that. You're wealthy now. First, you're wealthy in time. Yes. Time is infinite and unlimited in truth. As an eternal being, you'll always exist. You're wealthy in time. But more importantly, you're wealthy in mind. Oh my God, this is my part. Because we recognize the truth that everything that exists first started as a thought. Yes, yes? As my best friend Ohani Savant loves to say, it costs nothing to dream. And similarly, it costs nothing to think. You're wealthy. I can't even put a number on it. I mean, if I call you a billionaire in mind, that's still limited. If I call you a trillionaire or quadrillionaire in mind, I'm still limiting you. Because any good and perfect thing that exists on the earth, right? The Salvation Army was first a thought in mind, right? Every nonprofit organization, every NGO, every human rights organization, every social justice organization, every benevolent organization or foundation first started as an idea in mind. It was free. Reminds me of the Strangest Secret, Earl Nightingale. He talks about this idea. It's our most valuable resource. It's not just the power of our mind, but our thoughts. And the reason why we don't always go to it or use it is because it's free, because we take it for granted. Many times the things that we pay for, we treat those as precious. But you came here on this planet wealthy, wealthy in time and wealthy in mind. Which means that you have the possibility and the ability to serve. Something that's similar to this, and I want to touch on this idea. Sometimes we think, okay, in the sense of not feeling wealthy or not feeling like we have something to give, what it shows up as is, I don't know what my purpose is in life. I would love to I just need to know, Pastor Greg, what is my purpose? I mean, how do I figure that out? How do I find that out? I have a lot of talents, and there's a lot of things I can do well, and there's things that I'm excited about, but what is my purpose? Your purpose is to serve. Your purpose is to serve the light that you are. Your purpose is to be light, to be love, as I just quoted Reverend Michael again, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. What that looks like can be whatever you want. See, the reason we ask that question of, I'm trying to figure out my purpose or what is my purpose, because we've been told a lie that there's one specific assignment that looks like a perfect opportunity or employment opportunity or something like that, that's, once we figure that out, then we're now in line with what the universe wants for us. The only alignment that is needed is I am and choose to be love, light, and a beneficial presence on the earth. That's it. You can be a construction worker and do that. You can be a garbage collector and do that. You can be a real estate mogul and do that. You can be a musician and do that. You can be a minister and do that. You can do whatever you want and be a beneficial presence on the earth through the work that you're doing. And guess what? When you get bored with that, you can do something else. And so if you want to understand then what your purpose is, if you're trying to figure it out, the solution is to follow the joy. Because what I've come to know and understand is that creativity feels good, right? Now let's think about this for a second. Let's take it to the human level, right? We understand how human beings procreate, right? And we understand that it's through an enjoyable experience. Yes, yes? And so that's telling us something about life itself. Beautiful, just hear this. You got to hear this, right? We understand that procreation happens through an enjoyable experience. You want to create on this earth, you want to create something powerful, just as powerful as a human being. You want to create something powerful, follow the joy. Follow where it feels good, because if you're in the place of feeling good, that's where creativity is. The universe designed it that way. And so then that's no longer about a particular occupation. That's no longer about a particular field. And that means that you can change at any time. This is why I believe we live in this age of multiplicity where all of us have commas, right? You know, pastor, musician, coach, entrepreneur, investor, philanthropist, right? Author, teacher, etc., right? I believe that's why we live in this age where, and for me, those have always been my heroes, the ones that had all of these different commas, that they were able to express all of these different attributes and aspects of themselves. Now, why is that true? Well, because if we know the truth that each of us are individual expressions of the all that is, of this thing that we call God, that means that God expresses in many different colors. God expresses in many different heights. God expresses in many different hair textures. God expresses in many different body types. God expresses in many different types of trees. God expresses in many different types of plants. God expresses in many types of planets. God expresses in many different types of stars. So why would that be different for us? So when we express in and as all of these different things, we are being God on the earth. We are being the divine. We are being who and what we were designed to be. But where it starts, and what I've learned in my own life, you got to start where you are. What is that thing, that one thing that just is the most passionate for you, that just excites you the most? That's where you start. And what happens is, as you love on and make love to and nurture that idea and bring it into fruition, then it's like you've gotten that out of the way, and now the other gift, the other skill, the other talent, the other passion that was just waiting. It was like waiting for you to move this other thing out so it could show up. It always does. It always does. Because by your very design, you're designed to be prolific. You're designed to express in so many different ways. Again, we celebrate and look at our heroes and celebrities, and we look at them like, oh, wow, they're so amazing. This person plays 3 sports, or this person does all of these things. But if you look at, for instance, let's take Oprah Winfrey, for example. Beautiful example. We all see all of the things that she does on this planet now. We're aware of her many commas financially and in how she shows up in the world. Yes, yes. But she started out as a news reporter. And even before that, as a child, she just had a passion for speaking. She used to do her recitations this time of year, Christmas, right? And do her speeches. And she realized and recognized that there was something she loved about speaking, and people responded to it. Out of that came the desire later to move into journalism. And, I grew up in Maryland. I remember when she was a newscaster in Baltimore. That's where it started. Now, logically speaking, would you have thought that a newscaster would become all of what Oprah Winfrey is? Like, there's not a straight line trajectory to that. We had never seen that before. But it was out of her willingness to first start where she was. From newscaster to then AM Chicago. It's talk show host, a local talk show host in Chicago. There was nothing national about it. Everybody didn't know her. To then the Oprah Winfrey Show, which was only released in limited markets. It still wasn't across the whole country. Right? But then we start to see, as we watch her life, it feels logical, but it feels logical because she was revealing herself at each step, at each stage. And if you watch her life and look at her life, what's clear is that she went through her process at each step and at each stage, right? We're looking at the success of OWN, and it's wonderful and beautiful and amazing, but she went through the valley experience of oh no, why did I shut down this super successful show? Why am I starting this new venture? And there was a moment when it looked like she might not succeed, but she went back to her tools. She got still. She went within and listened to that voice of truth within her and followed that guidance step by step by step. And so now, of course, she's amazingly successful in another way. So we can look at her life as a living, breathing example of our own possibility. Not that she's special. She's doing the same work we're doing, y'all. Yes. She's doing the same work. Reading the same books that we're reading, y'all. So let's bring this to what's happening here in this country, right? What business are we in? Jacob Marley says, mankind is my business. I'm saying that what business are we in? We're in the business of service. And so we need to look for how we can serve. And so I'm sure all of us are concerned, whether it's about our country and the results of the election. We're also concerned about what's happening in Standing Rock. And the highest question that you can ask yourself related to that experience right now is, how can I serve? Now, that's a different question than, how do I resist this? How do I defend? How do I protest? That may be the right question for some people, but out of service, you'll get to what the step is that you should take. And so for many of us, we may provide, it's beautiful to see that nurses and those from the medical community are going to Standing Rock to serve. How can I serve? Because we recognize as the water protectors are there and we're standing in solidarity with them, we want to be of service to them. How can we be a beneficial presence in this moment? How can I serve? There are many that are collecting medical supplies and food and clothing because it's cold up there right now, y'all. How can I serve? It's a different question. And it elevates us back to this place of oneness. It elevates us beyond the sense of right and wrong. It elevates us beyond the place of us and them. Because it is from that place, that's where the inspired idea comes from. We're very clear about our planet. We're very clear about our water. We're very clear of our oneness with the water, right? And we're very clear that in the end, goodness always prevails. Not worried about that. But in this moment, there is an opportunity to be love. In this moment, there is an absolute call for love. And we recognize if we're in the business of service, we can ask ourselves this profound question. How can I serve? And again, that looks different for all of us. I saw somebody post on Facebook the other day. He said, are we trying to out-social justice each other now? Like, that's what we doing? Because there's so many people are posting all of these things. You know, I work in a human rights environment, and there's powerful things that are happening, and organizations that are ready for these types of moments. We're mobilizing and we're doing the work, right? But if that's not your work, if you're not an attorney, please stop trying to be an attorney now. Give to the ACLU. Right? But you don't have to try to out social justice people or post things that you think you know about the law when you haven't been trained for that. Right? But how can I serve today? Where is your gift? Where is your skill? Where is your talent? What is your ability right now? If you have the financial means to donate and give to those that are moving out, that are going out in the front lines, do that. We recognize, of course, as a spiritual community, we're staying in prayer, but we don't just live in prayer, right? Prayer inspires action. As we hear so often within our New Thought communities, treat and move your feet, right? It's both and. Spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer, yes, yes, and we move our feet. But we know that if we're moving our feet out of this limited idea of we have the power to do something and not recognizing that it's the God in us that has the power to make the change, then moving our feet is going to be meaningless and futile. That's why we got to bring the two together. And so it is out of this awareness of service that we do that. And so as I was thinking about service, I'm going to leave you with this. It took me back to something in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which I love. The principles in Think and Grow Rich are absolutely spiritual and unfortunately aren't always used in this type of application. You know, entrepreneurs, business folks use it all the time. And in my favorite chapter, chapter 3, which is faith, which I'm sure many of you know, that's my favorite chapter, Napoleon Hill, in the self-confidence formula, he writes this, and for those in my classes, you may have heard me quote part of this because it's one of my favorites. He writes, I fully realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. I will succeed by attracting to myself the forces I wish to use and the cooperation of others. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve others. I eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity because I know that a negative attitude toward others can never bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them and in myself. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve others. You're in the business of service. The moment that we accept that truth, things change. The moment that we accept that truth, ideas that we can actually accomplish start to show up. Right? Because if we think we're in the business of sacrifice, a sacrificial idea is going to come up and you're like, ain't no way I'm not giving that. If we don't realize that we're in the business of service, then a helping idea and it doesn't feel good. It's like, no, this person is my brother. This person is my sister. This doesn't feel good to reach down to this person. That's not who they are. When I realize I'm serving them. It's a heart-to-heart connection. It's a mind-to-mind connection. It's a divine-to-divine connection. And so in this moment, I invite everyone to stand. What business are you in today? This can help you to see maybe that job that you're looking to get out of in 2017, to see it differently as you are moving out of that job. I'm in the business of service. I'm in the business of being a beneficial presence right here in this place of employment. I'm in the business of being love, of being light, of shining love, of shining light, of shining peace wherever I go. And so we ask the profound question in this moment, as there are so many things going on our planet, there are so many things going on in this country right now that are calling for our attention. There is a call for freedom. There is a call for justice. There is a call for change. There is a call for revolution. There is a call for evolution. And recognizing that we do not need to defend anything, for it is out of our defenselessness that our safety lies, we ask a higher question. We ask, how can I serve today? And we listen. We ask the Spirit to show us where our service is most needed right here and right now. Tapping into our unique skills, gifts, talents, and abilities. Remembering that we were uniquely designed for this moment. That we each chose to be on this planet right here, right now, during this time. Recognizing that we answered a call long ago from a non-physical place to be here in 2016 going into 2017, because it's a recognition that the love within us can transform any experience on this planet. That the love within us can transform any experience of fear, any expression of fear, any expression of disunity, any expression of disharmony right here and right now. It's a recognition that there's a oneness that we have and we understand with the entire planet. Just as we are made of water, so we are one with the water that is being protected right here and right now. And so it is out of this profound oneness that we bring our love and our attention to what is happening at Standing Rock. It is out of our expression and realization of the oneness, not only the oneness with the water protectors, but our oneness even with those who have been militarized in this moment. Because what I know to be true is that the God in us is still the God in them. And so to that divinity within each and every one of them, I call it forth to rise up now. The love that is in me and that is in you, I call it forth to rise up now. For I know that as that love rises up, it begins to change their minds. It causes them to think a new thought and to see the whole experience differently. They realize that they have no enemies, that the water protectors are their brothers and their sisters. And they see that as water is a representation of life, they are standing in honor and reverence of the sacred expression of life. Mother, Father, God, I am grateful and thankful for the light workers that are here in this space and within the sound of my voice. I am grateful and thankful to be here in a place, in a community that is reminding us of the power that lives within us. Reminding us that as we are ministers, we are servants, for that is what a minister is, a servant. And we recognize that there is nothing ugly about that word, but it is good. For it allows us to live life no longer with sacrifice, and it allows us to live life no longer helping, but simply serving ourselves as our brothers and sisters. Serving the God in us that we see as we walk along this journey of life. And as we do that, we recognize that we will not hold the chains that Jacob Marley held. We will live a life of freedom, unfettered, unlimited, ever expanding, ever evolving. Every chain has been broken now. As we take this life of service seriously and we make it our business, I release this word with gratitude and thanksgiving and a profound expectation that each of us will receive an inspired idea. That each of us will receive the next logical step for our life based on our unique design. And out of us collectively doing that, our world must change. Out of us collectively doing that, we will experience a new experience, and the beloved community will become our reality. For this, I am so very grateful. I release this word, and together we say, Amen, Amen. Ashe. Ashe. And so it is. So it is. Thank you, God.